Hello everyone, Bob Believers around the world. This is a very important video. And this video is a warning to many of the sons and daughters of Japheth. Now I said many, not all, because we have a lot of righteous sons and daughters of Japheth who are not dealing with this issue. But what I'm going to be discussing in this video is something that many descendants of Japheth lack. And this thing that they lack puts them in danger of not even making it into the kingdom. It puts their chances of making it into the kingdom on the line. And that thing that I'm talking about that they need, that a lot of them lack, is something called humility. Now I'm going to elaborate why. So, a good brother, good friend of mine, sons and daughters of the covenant of Yah, recently covered the scriptures about the handmaids and servants in the kingdom and the punishment of the wicked Gentiles who don't respect and love the Israelites. And keep in mind, his series is a two-part series. And he hasn't even gotten episode 2 yet, where he talks about what's going to happen to the righteous, good Gentiles. He's done one episode talking about the punishment and the servitude of the bad Gentiles and all of the things that they're going to have to do and pay back what they've done to the Israelites over the centuries. And there's many sons and daughters of Japheth in an uproar in this comment section saying stuff like, you're a supporter of slavery. And, being sarcastic, like, oh, I'm here and I'm a slave and I'm looking for someone to buy me and all this type of stuff. And this is exactly what I'm saying, lacking humility. Haven't even gotten to the part about the reward yet for the righteous Gentiles. We're talking about the wicked ones and what's going to happen to them. And there's already an uproar and just at the thought of having to be in servitude to an Israelite. Now here's what I'm going to tell some stories about experiences I've had with descendants of Japheth and how this lack of humility is an issue with many of them that needs to be rooted out so they can reach, their best selves and really serve the Most High Yah and make it into the kingdom and be a righteous man and a righteous woman. So years ago, back in my childhood, I, had multiple friends. I had, a very mixed multitude group of friends. I still do now. But back then, with friends who I had, I'm going to mention one. I'm going to give him an anonymous name. I'm going to give him the name Johnny. When we would go over and play Hot Wheels or whatever, Johnny would always be like, giving myself an anonymous name now, Johnny would always be like, Jamal, put the Hot Wheels away. Mom is coming. Jamal, when you go out to get yourself a drink, bring me back a bag of chips. Jamal this, Jamal that. And I was fine with that because you care for your friends. You love your friends and you want them, want them to be happy and all that. So I was fine doing all this type of stuff for Johnny, no matter if it was cleaning up his Hot Wheels or, bringing him a drink or whatever. But you know what happened though? When I would ask Johnny, hey Johnny, would you clean up my, Johnny, clean up my shoes? It was like completely dead silence, like a shock. Like a Japhethite was just not able to comprehend the idea of doing something for an Israelite. Despite all of my good, years of service of cleaning up his toys, fixing up his room, putting away his Legos, bringing food to him. Now when the tables have turned and he needs to start doing stuff for me, now he can't do it. And I've experienced this with many Japhethites over the years where I've busted my back helping them, with their art projects and the whole 9 yards. But now when I need them to do something servitude related for me so I can get my art project done, they're like, maybe, and then they never message me back. And these are people who I've done everything for. And this is what I'm saying about the lack of humility. And I saw a really great lesson by a brother, and it was called The Envy of Japheth. That was the beginning part of it. And what he covered in there was really true. All nations of people can have salvation and be loved by Yah and be friends with Yah. That is 100% true. We all can. All be friends with Yah, all servants of Yah, all in the covenant, Gentiles grafted into Israel, the whole 9 yards. 100% factual. 100% factual. But the one thing that he said that was really true, though, that stood out to me, was he said that different nations of people, or what we would call different races of people, have different spiritual issues that they need to fight and evil spirits that they need to cast off on their journey with Yah. And they're not all the same. For instance, Judah has an issue with greed. And you look in the black community and you see that. We're always obsessed with trying to make money. I mean, in my family, it's always, if I make a really good Lego set, it's, brother, you can sell that. You can make money off of that. If I go fishing and catch a big fish, it's, man, we need to figure out a way to market this. We can sell this. The black community is always about making money. Even when you look in the ghetto and you got people doing stuff they're not supposed to, what are they doing? They're trying to find a way to make money. And now I'm going to talk about Japheth. One of Japheth's issues is he's power hungry. And we see that throughout history, and we literally see it in his name. And one of the many meanings of Japheth's name in Hebrew is enlarge. And you have that desire for enlargement and power and control. So that's why a lot of Japhethites have an issue with servitude and helping somebody else out and not having someone else do everything for them. Because they have that domination thing. Japheth wants to dominate. We saw in Maccabees, the Greeks came in and dominated everybody. We saw in, World War I and World War II, they wanted to dominate everybody. Soviet Union, America wanted to dominate everybody. America pulling up to Cuba and Puerto Rico wanting to dominate them. Wanting to dominate Hawaii. It's that enlargement that, that want to dominate and control. That's not really an Israelite issue. Our issue, specifically Judah mainly, is greed. We struggle with being greedy, being Mr. Krabs, for my Gen Z, believers out there. But Japheth wants to be in control and in charge about everything. And I've noticed that before with Japhethites I know and have known, where they will be such good people, but when their tables turn and it's their turn to be a servant, they got an issue after I've done everything for them. See, it's that enlargement. It's that power hungry. You guys, you got to get that out. You got to be humble. Just like Judah, wake up. We got to stop being greedy. We got to, make the world a better place. We got to help believers all around the world. We got to stop being a cheapskate. Japheth has to stop being so power hungry and obsessed with power that he won't help nobody because he feels like he needs to be served. I'm telling you, it's no joke. I've seen it time and time again. And keep in mind, this is like what the brother was saying in the Japheth envy video. This is a spirit that white people have to deal with and have to cast out, just like Israelites have to deal with greed and the love of money. We have to cast that out because I have stories going back to the 5th grade talking about this. So it was already in them at the 5th grade that black boy cleans up my room, I do nothing. And these weren't racist families neither. So you can't say, oh, it was just where they were raised. No. It's that Japheth enlargement. I'm big and, it's my job to dominate and to be on top, and everyone else has to clean up my Hot Wheels. And when we talk about handmaids and servants in the kingdom, for years, black people have been the ones, like I said in my story, after we're done playing, let's talk about children, for instance. What's wrong for the righteous Gentiles? This is not even a problem. But we're not, like sons and daughters that are coming to Yah. He hasn't even gotten into the righteous blessings for the righteous Gentiles yet. He's talking about the bad ones, the people already in the uproar. But let's talk about children for a second. What is wrong with the idea that in the kingdom, the roles will be reversed, where now, after the play date, as my mom would call it, is over, the white people are the ones cleaning up the toys, not the black people? What is wrong with the roles being flipped in the kingdom, where now, when the black kids are hungry, it's the white kids who are going out to find the chicken nuggets? What is wrong with the roles being reversed in the kingdom, where now it's the black boy who's laying on the bed or the black girl who's laying on the bed, and the white kids have to get out the bed to hit play on the DVD player? What's wrong with that? Because, the way I am is, you do what people do for you. If somebody would get out, and here's the thing about me. I am humble, and the Most High Yah wants me to be humble. Any son or daughter of Japheth, who I don't even know, could come to my house right now and say, my leg hurts, and I don't know what to do. And I would wash their cuts off, clean their cuts, and put Band-Aids on them, and give them a bottle of water, and send them away. I would do that. If a Japhethite there's an ugly cut on their arm, I would fix their arm and give them a bottle of water, maybe even a piece of bread. And I don't even know them. But a lot of sons and daughters of Japheth need to get into a point where they can do that for somebody else. This is a real problem. And I hope I get some comments on this, on why this is the case. I know that it goes back to that enlargement, but this is a real problem. You can't even wait for the brother's lesson to get finished to hear about your blessing, and you're already mad and sarcastic in the comment section. But with these Japhethites who struggle with this issue, if the scripture said that black people needed to be servants again, and that black people be servants for 1,000 years, you would be fine with that. But it's only because now you have to be the one who makes the lemonade that it's a problem. And again, in the scriptures, in the Torah, an Israelite's not even allowed to hurt his servant, not even allowed to hit his servant. So when they hear servitude, they think of what their descendants did to us. But an Israelite could never do that to them. So in reality, all you're doing is frying chicken nuggets, and you can't even do that. No one's getting whipped and shot like we did, like we went through. That violence and harm is not even happening, because if an Israelite knocked the tooth out of their maid, the maid got to go free. So what's the deal? You can't make sweet tea for somebody? This is a real problem, and humility will keep you guys out of the kingdom. Everybody has a shot into the kingdom. You have a shot, and you should be there. You have the opportunity to make it there. But no humility will stop you from making it.